What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA Show. We are back with myself, Huzefa, and Justin Guitar Hero James. And to start off the show, we already have a comment from Anakin Skywalker, who's been a really active participant in the chat. So what's up, Anakin? Welcome back. And he has a question about the flyweight division. We are going to touch on the flyweight division when we talk about Muhammad Mokaev. And he's asking that, is the flyweight division in trouble with everything going on from 304 and so forth, and so forth and whatnot. So we're going to talk about that, having to do a lot with the Manel Cop and Muhammad Mokaev fight. Really, really weird stuff that's going on. But man, just what an action-packed weekend. So we're going to dive into all that. Before we jump in, Justin, how's it going with you?
Hey man, still here in Vegas. It's 150 degrees outside. Burn your skin when you walk out. Unfortunately, it's my last 2 days with my son, which really sucks. We go back to Michigan tomorrow. But it's been a good summer, man. We got a lot of travel. Went to Spain, went to Alaska. So I can't complain too much.
All right. Well, that is a bummer, but
One
Yep,
more thing.
go for it.
October 18th, your boy Huzefa Kapadia will be commentating for your boy Justin James's next fight against Lloyd Cupcake Mix in Missoula, Montana.
Oh, snap. October 18th. We're going back to Missoula. All right. That's going to be dope. That's going to be dope. Can't wait for that. Yeah, I was waiting for that exact date. So that's going to be cool. All right. Awesome. Okay. We got to start at the top because, man, oh, man, we've been, or at least I've been getting some hate, but it's hate that I think is merited. I think I really, really messed up here in a couple of things that I've said last show and that whole video I made on Belal. So holy smokes, Belal Muhammad is the new welterweight champion. One of my favorite divisions, to be honest. People are saying different things about the welterweight division in terms of the talent and whatnot, but like, I love this division. I loved it even back in the day when we had Kobe fighting Usman. I mean, I just think there's a lot of really cool, interesting fighters. We got Jack Magdalena. I can't remember how to say his name correctly. On the come up, we've got Shavkat, we've got Ian Gary, we've got all these crazy things happening. It's a dope division. But can you believe it? I mean, what percent chance did you get Belal before the fight happened?
I think I said it was like a 55-45 percentage. I'm not surprised. I mean, just because I don't like Belal as a fighter, again, I'm not gonna. He looked great, man. He looked great. His striking looked great. He was following up with the head kicks and stuff. But just because a guy's a great fighter doesn't mean we have to like him. And again, Belal is awesome. I've always said he's a great fighter. He knows how to slow fights down. He knows how to make fights boring. He knows how to win fights. That doesn't mean I have to like him. It doesn't mean I have to like his style. Now, against Leon Edwards, I thought he looked really good. I thought his striking looked really good. His pressure, his pace was really good. His takedowns, as always, were awesome. Usman had a hard time taking down Leon Edwards, and Leon Edwards had some good moments in the fight. But definitely Belal won the fight fair and square. I don't really care that people hate on me for what I have to say. Just because they like him doesn't mean I have to like him or you have to like him. I still don't care for the guy. I'm not thrilled he's our champion. I think he had a great performance. Again, just the cringe on the mic. Like when you have someone that's cringy on the mic, let's take like Henry Cejudo, for instance. That guy is the cringe, man. But it's so out there and it's like a character. And you just know it's fake. You know it's not him. When Belal tries to do it, I think he's actually trying to look tough and look cool, and it's even more cringy. Again, congratulations to Belal. He had an incredible performance. It doesn't mean I care for him as a champion.
No, it's true, and I think that you just nailed it on the head. I think why there's a disconnect between fans and Belal, and he is almost trying. I don't know what it is. It doesn't connect. But that being said, I have to apologize on certain fronts because part of the reasons, so I made a whole video on 10 reasons why people don't like Belal, why fans hate Belal, etc. And a big part of that video was me saying how he's just kind of out of touch with the things that he's saying. He was talking about how he's going to walk through Leon Edwards. He was talking about his boxing is like Canelo, which everybody was kind of clowning him. But yo, I gotta take a step back and apologize. And a lot of people were calling him out for it, rightfully so. His boxing was great. I could not believe it. He went in there. He has less range. I mean, all these things as to why you said 45, 55%. I was like, I was just so, I had made up my mind that Leon was going to win. I was giving Belal like a 10% chance, which was probably ludicrous. I think even MMA Guru was giving him a 25 to 30% chance. And maybe that was on the low end. But I was just convinced. I'm like, how is he going to stand and strike with him? He's going to try and take him down. How is it even going to work if Kobe or Usman can't take him down? Yo, I was wrong. And so I have to retract some of the statements because I guess Belal, as insane as he was sounding, he was right. He kind of did walk through Leon Edwards. I think Ariel Helwani said today he gave it to Leon 3-2. And I love Ariel, but that is like such a heavily biased opinion to give Leon Edwards the 5th round. I mean, that was a beautiful elbow and he busted him open, but that was like the last 30 seconds of the fight. I mean, I think it pretty much everybody is agreeing that it was a 4-1 victory. So, I mean, he came out, he kind of did walk through him. Now, I want to talk to you as well as about Leon's performance, because I do think there was something going on with him to some degree, but you have to give full credit to Belal because I don't know, what he was saying was right. I guess he knew a lot of things that we didn't know. So major props. And I enjoyed the fight. I don't know about you. And I know we talk about Belal being boring, but I thought it was very interesting. And I was on the edge of my seat to see if Leon could pull the victory off in the 5th round, to see if he could get it started. He couldn't. And what about that slam on Leon's head? I mean,
yeah, you know what? I hate MMA fans. They're the worst, dude. Like, they're like, oh man, he got slammed on his head. You know, Jared Brooks was suspended in one championship when he fought for the belt and slammed his opponent on his head. Look, wrestling is wrestling. You know, when you get picked up, you need to put your hands up. And I thought I thought it was a good slam. You know, you don't hear Leon Edwards complaining about the slam. You don't hear anybody else. You hear the fucking retarded fans that don't know anything about MMA that, you know, I follow a black and white rule book. If Leon's not complaining about it, other MMA fighters aren't complaining about it, all the fans need to shut up. I thought it was a great slam. It was a great transition, man. Had him off, double off, single leg, you know, picked him up. Reminded me of an old school Randy Couture against Gabriel Gonzaga, although that was a head inside single compared to the head outside single. But again, Belal looked great. Now, to compare his boxing to Canelo, I don't think that's a good comparison, but his striking was great, man. He looked great in every way. You know, but hey, let's talk about Leon Edwards too. Let's not take it away from Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards had some good moments. You know, he took Belal down, had his back for a whole round. You know, it was boring. But again, when Belal was on his back, it was kind of boring as well. That's just why, again, this is just preference. Belal is a great fighter. Do I like him on the mic? No. Do I like him as the champion? Absolutely not. He's a decision master. He knows how to make fights boring. We talked about it in the fight lead up. With that being said, he beat the champ. Belal beat Leon Edwards. There's no doubt in my mind, and I can't believe that Ariel Helwani said it was 3-2. That's just ludicrous. Give the guy props where he deserves. Does he sound good on the mic? Absolutely not. But he does know how to fight, and he is our UFC champion.
And just to clarify, he said 3-2, still in favor of Belal, but still, I think a 3-2. It should have been a 4-1.
I thought you said 3-2 to Leon. I'm sorry.
No. But still, it shouldn't have been a 3-2. It should have been a 4-1. Should the right call, I think, from not just me saying it. A lot of people are calling me a casual now for picking Leon so aggressively. Maybe I am a little bit. I don't know. But
yeah, I am too. I'm a casual too.
Yeah.
Fucking stupid.
But I think the 49-46 made the most sense, and I don't know, but. Man, oh man, just so wild because I don't know. There was a couple guys. There's one guy, MMA Joey. I know you don't watch a lot of the YouTubers, but he had Belal and he was adamant that Belal was going to win, and he made a whole video gloating about it. But I kind of thought it was a great video because he goes through. He's been saying for years he was picking Belal. Now let me tell you a couple things that really blew my mind. Belal is, I think, now 36 or 37, and he somehow I thought he gotten way faster, or Leon was slower because he was tired. I want to talk about that too in a second, because even Anakin has brought up, hey, do you think the time zone favored Belal? We're going to talk about that as well. But I don't think it's fair to just put it all in the time zone, because every fighter had to deal with that. Otherwise, you have fighters coming into the U.S. that have to deal with the time change. So it's one or the other. Somebody's going to have a slight advantage when you have two fighters from different locations. But anyways, going back to, I just lost my train of thought. What was I'm totally blanking right now. But anyway,
Leon fatigues.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So perhaps. Oh yeah. Going back to the speed differential. I mean, I was blown away by the fact that Belal almost seemed faster than Leon. And to do that at this point in his career, you know, what must he be doing? He must have cleaned up his diet, cleaned up his workout regimen. I think he was talking about his nutritionist when he was giving his speech. But somehow, when I looked at that fight from 3 years ago, and I know it was a long time ago and it was only a round, but there was a clear differential in speed favoring Leon. And then here it seemed like Belal seemed to be faster. Another thing is, I don't know if you noticed this, but that first flurry of punches where I think he tagged Leon in round 1 with the uppercut. I feel like Leon got dazed, and then and he was blocking like that. Leon got dazed, and I don't think he ever recovered. Do you feel like? Did you notice anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something me and my son were watching the fight, and that's something I said. I think he just got rocked because he went up for like his here, and Belal slipped with that left uppercut.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we talk about, Leon Edwards and like, oh, he wasn't all there. He was tired in this. Listen, Leon and MMA fighters, this is a common misconception. MMA fighters are not robots. We're not computers. We can't just turn on and like, oh, we're 100% all the time. Things happen, bad weight cuts, bad diet, injuries in training camp, a time zone change. So when you talk about like the champ, like Leon Edwards, he said in the first round he felt tired. I mean, there's so many variables. The guy you just can't. Man, it's just so hard just to show up perfect every single time. And
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything away from Belal because he looked faster, he looked crisper, he looked like he wanted it more. And that was a big thing in my perception. His posture, his pressure, that tells me he wanted it more. He was fighting in these great positions. Even when he was Leon was on his back, he was trying to get up. They had a really tight body lock on him. I got nothing for. I'm not a fan of Belal, but I got nothing for praise for him after this victory.
Now, you made a really interesting point. Like, hey, all these different things can happen. Even when you're a dominant champion, Leon, a lot of people were picking him to win, and you just can't. There are going to be things that are going to throw you off, and it just shows how difficult it is for somebody like Mighty Mouse or somebody like Jon Jones or GSP or these guys to have these massive unbeaten streak. I mean, Leon too. Maybe he didn't have that many title defenses, but he had a streak of 13 wins. Man, how difficult it must be to get win after win after win and to keep on beating those odds of like just nothing going wrong. And maybe that was part of the puzzle, that just things weren't clicking correctly with Leon. And maybe the other side is Belal was just so on point, so dialed in, so mentally confident that it was a breeze for him, I guess. Or, not to say breeze, but he kind of did what he said he was going to do. So anyways, massive props to Belal. And the welterweight division now, I don't know. I feel like Dana wasn't expecting that. He seemed mad that Belal won. The whole welterweight division is in a really interesting state, which brings us to topic number 2. What's next in the welterweight division? So I wanted to talk about a couple people and other folks in the mix just to get your thoughts on what you think should be next for a title shot and some other fights. So we now have Belal up there. Dana White's already said they're not going to give Leon the rematch, basically in the after fight, in the post fight presser. So we've got a couple guys that are waiting around, right? We got Colby sitting there. Okay, we've got Kamaru Usman, who has who hasn't had a fight since he lost to Leon. He's also still waiting in the wings. We've got Shavkat. We've got Ian Gary. We've got again Jack. I keep messing up his last name. Magdalena. Jack Della Magdalena. There we go. And so we've got a lot of interesting up and coming contenders. Oh, we've also got what's it called? Gilbert Burns. We forgot about Gilbert Burns, who lost to Belal Muhammad last year. So we got all these interesting things. So let's first talk about Belal's next fight. People have said Shavkat. People have said Kamaru. I may be the only one that might kind of think it would be somewhat interesting to get Colby in there just from the press conference standpoint, but obviously there's really no grounds for it, no merit for it. But what would you like to see next for a title shot?
Honestly, what I would like to see is a rematch for Leon. Kamara got his rematch immediately. I know it's not going to happen. That's what I would like to see. I think the next fight that's going to happen is going to be Shavkat. Him and Belal have already been bantering back and forth before the fight, after the fight. He said he's next. I think Shavkat, it would be a great. Colby, I hate even bringing him up in the mix. I think it'd be a relatively entertaining, but we're going to talk about two of the cringiest guys on the mic going back and forth. Like, I think it'll just hurt my ears to listen. Like, Colby is a whiny little bitch, and Belal is, I don't even know what to describe him as on the mic. I mean, it's just gonna, and then the fight is gonna be a snooze fest. Like, they're gonna just take each other down, land. Like, I don't know. That's just not a fight. I know you're into it. I'm just not. I have no interest in seeing that fight. I'd rather see Ian Gary knock out Colby Covington than watch a wrestling match between Belal and Colby. Shavkat, on the other hand, man, that guy's an up and coming prospect. Ian Gary in the mix, but I don't think he's there just yet. I still would like to see him get 1 or 2 more wins, credible wins. Again, he's a great up and coming fighter. I just don't think he's in the championship contention just yet. Gilbert Burns losing to Belal. I think Gilbert's lost like 2 in a row or 2 of his last 3. I don't think he should be in championship. And I might be wrong. You can probably correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think he's there. I think the right matchup, again, I would like to see Leon because Kamara got his rematch immediately. But obviously it's different circumstance. If not Kamara, I think Shavkat's right up there.
So I'm looking up Gilbert Burns' record right now because he lost to Belal, and then I don't even remember. Wait, what? How do I not remember this fight? Yeah, he lost to Jack Della Maddalena. Okay, yeah, so he is coming off 2. I thought you were wrong about that. You're totally right. So he is coming off 2 losses. Fair point. And Jack Della Magdalena is a legend. He's on the tear right now. I don't actually think it would be a boring fight with him and Colby. I don't think they're going to do him versus Colby. I don't think it makes any sense. So let me just put that out there before people get mad. But I think if they did fight, I think it could end up being a striking battle, just like Kamara versus Colby, right? 2 guys, they kind of nullify each other on the ground. So maybe it could be an interesting fight. But I've also heard people check this out. I know you talk about Ian Gary versus Colby. That'd be dope. But what about Leon versus Ian Gary?
That'd be a great matchup. And what a great step up in competition. And that could be a contender fight. I like that matchup a lot. Man, I'd like to actually that's a very intriguing matchup again, right? Fighting for contendership, putting Ian Gary up there. As much as I want to see him go starch Colby Covington, I think that's a great matchup, and that's a striker's delight. I don't think those guys are going to wrestle very much, even contrary to Ian Gary, taking down his last opponent, Michael Venom Page over and over. I think obviously he'd have a much harder time taking down Leon than he would Michael Venom Page, Michael being so one-dimensional. So, yeah, I do love the matchup, but here's the thing. Dana White doesn't like Belal as the champion, whether he says it or not. I mean, watch when they announce the winner when he goes to put the belt on him. He's just like, because he knows. Here's the thing: fans want to see knockouts. Like fans want to see knockouts more than they do submissions. I'm not saying that they can't get in there and have a good decision, but Belal doesn't finish guys. He hasn't dropped anybody. I think we talked about it. He has like an hour and a half of cage time, and he's never and after this, he might have 2 hours of cage time now. He's never dropped anybody. He's not finishing fights. I mean, I can understand why Dana White doesn't care for him as the champion. So I think what Dana's going to do is they're going to try to find a really heavy striker that can defend takedowns. We're talking Shavkat. I think they're going to throw Shavkat in there, hoping that he starches Belal and they can just remove Belal from the top again. I don't like Belal, and I'm not afraid to say it. Again, not because of him being a good fighter or a bad fighter. I just don't care for him on the mic, and that's a big thing for me. For me to really like a fighter, I want to be able to relate to them, and I just can't relate to his boring style, and I can't relate to him on the mic. So I think they're going to put him against some killer that's going to try and come in there and take his head off.
Yeah, I think you're right. Now, I'll say from my standpoint, I'm not a huge fan of the things that he says either. But I think I'm just going on the record saying that part of the reason why I found a lot of his antics annoying was because I just thought he was making stuff up. But I have to admit that a lot of the stuff he said came true. So I don't even know where to stand on him right now. But yeah, I do think that makes a lot of sense. I do think they want Shavkat in there. And look, I'll tell you from the fan perspective, why I don't like decisions. It's not just because I want an exciting finish. That's part of it. But I think a lot of fans would agree with me. It's more about the finality or the lack thereof when it comes to a decision. Like, a decision, for example, Ariel Helwani thought it could have gone 3-2. Most people thought it could have gone 4-1. I think Bisping was even saying, which was a little ridiculous, that he could see the decision going towards Leon. So we have this ambiguity, and that's really frustrating as a fan because I don't know. For me personally, I want to see it black and white, no question. Tom Aspinall knocks out Curtis Blaydes, TKO, KO, whatever. Boom, he moves on. There's no argument. But when there's that ambiguity, it's just really frustrating. And then one fighter feels cheated. You know what I mean? So it just messes the whole thing up. That's probably, I think, part of the reason as well why maybe Dana White and the UFC aren't thrilled about Belal winning. But once again, props to Belal. He did it. He pulled it off. I can't believe it. He went into enemy territory. He was not phased. He was the aggressor from the start, went out, rushed Leon. I mean, the whole thing was crazy. I really enjoyed it. I didn't find the fight boring once again. And yeah, congratulations. And let's see what happens in the welterweight division. All right, moving on to the co-main event. Holy smokes. So I think we both picked Tom Aspinall on this one. I think most people did, but we also acknowledged that Curtis Blaydes had a really good chance of pulling off a victory here because he's big, he's strong, he's got an amazing wrestling background, he's powerful, and that's kind of how it goes in the heavyweight division. But in this very, very, very short fight, I think it was less than a minute, what did you see and what did you take away in terms of Tom Aspinall as maybe one of the rising greats?
I got one thing. One thing I take away from it starts with a C. It's called composure. Tom Aspinall looks so composed coming out against Curtis Blaydes, knowing all the pressures on him. He needs to win this fight to get to Jon Jones, to even have a chance with Jon Jones. And he just looks so in the zone. You know what I mean? His composure was incredible. And that really shows me this guy has a chance to be great. And when I say great, I mean very great. I mean, guys coming in with that kind of pressure to fight a great fighter that's been around the game for a long time, Curtis Blaydes, somebody that he lost to, I know it was by injury, but he's still to avenge that loss in the fashion he did. Tom Aspinall has a chance to become great.
What does it tell you that he was able to drop Curtis? Because he missed with that hook or whatever, the right cross or right hook. He dropped him with a jab. What does that does that mean something to you, or is that just, hey, sometimes when the timing and the placement is perfect, the jab can drop anybody?
Yeah, sometimes when the timing and placement is perfect, jab can drop everybody. He could have been coming in, as the punch goes out. You look at Anderson Silva versus Forrest Griffin. When Forrest kind of rushes at him 1-2, 1-2, and Anderson just goes pop and then knocks him out. You know what I mean? It's like, it's all about placement. Again, we're wearing MMA gloves, and I do believe these new gloves are smaller than 4 ounces. You just got to put someone right on the button. Anybody can go to sleep.
Yeah. So I just thought the whole thing was incredible. He got right on top of him, hit a ground and pound. I think it was 15 unanswered strikes before the fight was called. I know Curtis Blaydes protested, but I think after the fact, he said, no, that was a fair stoppage. And I think pretty much everybody agrees that was a terrific stoppage. One of the, if you want to call it criticism, but one of the hesitancies I think that people have about Aspinall that they were all of a sudden saying after this fight is they're like, we just haven't seen enough of him because all his finishes are in the first round mostly, and he's finishing so quickly. They haven't seen enough. Do you feel that way, or do you feel like you've seen enough to make a good conclusion that, yeah, like this guy's got what it takes?
I mean, if he's a one-trick pony, or he has one first-round knockout, but to have as many as he does, man, I mean, what else do we need to see out of him? He's getting in his fights. He's coming out undamaged, excluding the knee injury against Curtis Blaydes the first time. Besides that, the guy's not taking any damage. He's just going in there, popping guys out. They say that Tom Aspinall is the new breed of heavyweight. I mean, there's only one true way to test that, and that's to become the champ. And it looks like, if Jon Jones can get by Stipe, that's going to be the fight to make. And does Jon Jones take the fight?
Oh, we're going to talk about that in a second because I've got a theory. But by the way, if he hadn't had that fluke knee, I shouldn't call it a fluke knee injury, but if he hadn't had that injury and then that subsequent loss, he'd be on an 11-fight win streak right now. That's insane.
I mean, that's what people don't understand about win streaks in MMA. You know what I mean? It's like they think, oh, whoever's the champion is the greatest of all time. And I really hate when people do that. It's like you get these champs that, they have one defense, like Khabib. Well, how many defenses do they have? Like 3?
Let me double check. I think like 4. Hold on.
4, even 4 is kind of a lot. But you look at someone like George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, who I think was on a 16-fight win streak at one point, like 8 title defenses. That's really what tells me what true champion is. Just because you're the UFC champ and you win a fight or 2, or you defend the belt once or twice, doesn't make you the greatest of all time. When you have these long reigns and, talking about 11-fight win streak, we talk about Belal. I think he's on a 13-fight win streak. Like, that's just insane to be able to show up consistently and perform time and time again. Because I tell you what, as much as I don't care for Belal, he shows up every single time. And I can almost guarantee every time he wins, he doesn't show up 100%. He has his mental monsters. He has his physical monsters. These guys fans really need to start respecting these guys on these big streaks. And again, I respect Belal as a fighter. I think he is a great fighter. I'm just not a fan of him.
Right on. Yeah. By the way, I think you said 3 title defenses. You were correct. I had it was 4 fights as a champion, I guess, if you want to consider the Ally Quinta fight where he got the belt. But yeah, you were correct. It is 3 title defenses. The other thing that I do want to mention about Tom Aspinall, which take it for what it's worth, but when you hear other fighters talk about him that have trained with him, especially what's called Darren Till, Michael Bisping, they talk so highly of him, like he is the next coming of, as you mentioned, this new wave of new MMA fighters with a complete skill set. So I feel like everybody's talking him up so much that he's just so tremendously talented. He's proven it. He's the champ, interim champ. I mean, yeah, I think it's beyond question that he is absolutely the real deal. Now, we come to the next thing that you brought up, which was, will Jon Jones fight Aspinall? Now, I want to tell you my theory on this, and I feel pretty confident, although I was really wrong about the Belal fight, so who knows? But here's my theory. So Dana White, during the presser, they were talking about Tom Aspinall, and Dana White just seemed like in a really bad mood. I think he was very unhappy with the overall card, which I don't really understand. I thought it was a great card. Definitely, I thought the main event was cool. He was saying, 7 decisions in a row. He wasn't happy about that. I get that, but I still really, really enjoyed it. But anyways, so he seemed to be upset, and then somebody asked him about the Jon Jones fight. Hey, so now is Aspinall going to fight Jon Jones? What he said was, I think the winner of Jones Stipe would be a really good fight for Aspinall next. That's the way he said it. Now, that to me did not seem, it's a totally different thing from him being like, yes, after we're going to have Stipe versus Jones and the winner is absolutely going to fight Aspinall for the undisputed heavyweight title, right? He didn't say that. He just said that would be a great fight. Now, I may be reading too much into this, but I'm going to tell you that I believe that this fight will not happen, okay? And I'm going to tell you why, and I want to hear your thoughts. So what I think is going to happen instead is I think they're going to have the Jones-Stipe fight. Whoever wins, but let's say we say Jones wins, as most people anticipate. Jones is going to win, and Jones is going to retire. The reason why I don't think he's going to fight Tom Aspinall is because I still think this all goes back to a master plan for the UFC and for Jon Jones, having to do with, you probably can guess this, your teammate Francis Ngannou. I still think this goes back to Francis, and I still think this is one more notch on Jon Jones's belt where he can beat Stipe, who Stipe is another guy who beat Ngannou, right? Cyril Gane almost beat Ngannou. They had a very close fight. And then he's going to let Jon Jones retire right off into the sunset as the greatest, not mixed martial arts, as the greatest combat sports athlete, period, in the history of the world. Thereby saying, all right, whatever Francis wants to do next, it's going to take some of the shine off him. I just think that that's still there because people still talk about Francis as being the one guy who could have potentially beat Jon Jones. And this is going to be one more notch in that direction. And then he's out, and he's not going to want him to tarnish that legacy and fight Tom Aspinall and have more questions opened up and unanswered. What do you think? Do you think I'm crazy, or do you think I'm onto something?
No, that's definitely onto something. And that's the thing, with wins and losses, open up questions, and people they want direct answers of who's the best of all time. Right now, Jon Jones is the best. Yeah, exactly. Anakin, I agree with Anakin, man. Like, I think he's going to retire. I mean, he's getting older. He's fuck, man. He takes years off in between fights. The last time he fought was when I was at your house in Venice, and we watched it at your house. I mean, that was like 2 years ago. And I mean, we just can't. Yeah. You just can't keep taking these long layoffs, because he's not training for 2 years straight. And to take time off, and I mean, he's going to be losing. He might not be on a deep decline, but he's probably slowly declining, with age and time off. So, and Tom Aspinall is still getting better. He's still on his rise up. So, like, why try to meet somewhere in the middle? John's coming down, Tom's going up. And, it's like, why try to do that? Why tarnish his legacy? The guy's been around for fucking 20 years in the UFC, not just in MMA, but in the UFC. 15, I think 15 years. I think I mean, you'd be able to tell me better, maybe 2012, 2010. But again, why tarnish this guy's legacy, going against this up and coming brute? Now, if Jon Jones does take the Tom Aspinall fight and wins again, there will be no doubt in my mind, Jon Jones is the greatest combat sport athlete of all time.
Oh my God. If Jon Jones did actually beat Aspinall, that would be so wild. Because I bet you Aspinall will still go on after that to be super dominant as a champion. But yeah, I don't know. I think people would be way less upset. I was thinking about this earlier today, right? People are so mad at Jon Jones and are blaming him for everything. I don't think people would be that upset if Jon Jones relinquished the belt and then went on to fight Stipe and then retired, right? Well, guess what? Him relinquishing the belt or not is not really his decision. That's up to the UFC. The UFC will usually take the belt or not. So why is everybody getting mad at Jon Jones? It's the UFC. You can be mad at them if you want. I'm not really mad about it. I still like, he hasn't lost the belt. He's a champ. He kind of maybe has earned his spot to have a little bit of leeway, more so than fighters like Yuri or other guys who had to vacate the title. Fine. I'm not opposed to it. I still want to see the Stipe fight. I said it from the beginning. I'll say it again, and I'm okay with it if he leaves after fighting Aspinall, because once again, as you mentioned, Aspinall's coming up. Jon Jones, we know just from a mathematical standpoint, he's got to be getting close to that decline. He just had his 37th birthday. So yeah, I'm okay with it. But that's my prediction. I don't think Jon Jones is going to fight Aspinall. I personally don't blame him, and I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I know Anakin says, I don't think Jones wants him. Yeah, he may not want him. I don't particularly blame him. I mean, what are we supposed to say? Should we say that GSP needs to come back and fight Leon because now there's a new guy, or he needs to fight Belal now? No, like, you know, he's done. He's made his mark and he's out. So he's not running from new and up and coming welterweights or middleweights, whatever it may be. He's done. So I think we're kind of in that same situation for Jon Jones. That's my personal opinion. Let's see him fight Stipe. I want to see that fight, and then we'll see what's next. Okay, moving on to topic number 5. I mean, just so many things happened this weekend. It was crazy. I really want to get to topic 6 because that's something where I'd love to get your opinion on. But Paddy the Baddy is back, and I thought he looked incredible, and he's getting so many props and so much positive feedback from everybody from a skill standpoint. That's what I want to start with. What did you think?
Man, we're talking about a grappler. I did not think he had that kind of grappling behind him. His transition, it was like triangle to armbar to there was a three submission transition. Man, he put him out cold. Like, I did not think this guy could grapple like the way he did, especially off his back. I knew he could wrestle a little bit, but to hit those kind of transitions are transitions you hit on white belts, blue belts in practice when you're fucking around. He just did it to King Bobby Green, man, a guy that's been around MMA for fucking as long as I can remember. Again, he fought my college roommate Darren Cruikshank for the King of the Cage title back in the day in like 2010, 2011. This guy's been around the books, and to be hitting a 3 submission transition is just incredible. Paddy Pimblett is back, and he's in the top 15 now. And if he's not, he needs to be, and it's about time.
We're going to know tomorrow. The rankings are coming out tomorrow. I'm sure he is. I bet you'll be 14. But, okay, so that's amazing to hear you say that, because I didn't realize or know the full scope of exactly how difficult those transitions were. So you're saying those transitions were super difficult to pull off.
Well, they are at the level that they're doing them at. You know what I mean? Like, you're taught these transitions in your basic grappling class. Hey, when a guy does this, if you have an armbar and a guy does this, transition to triangle. Oh, if you have a guy in a triangle, he does this, armbar. But again, at the level they're fighting at, Bobby Green knows that. Bobby Green knows when he does this, Paddy's going to do this. So to me, you know, when I look at guys like Jake Shields, who, you know, I have the pleasure of working with at Extreme, like, I know what Jake's going to do. I'm going to shoot a double leg. He's going to go for a guillotine. I'm going to fight out of the guillotine. He's going to go to mount. Then he's going to flatten me out and mount. Then he's going to go for a side choke. And if he doesn't get a side choke, then he's going to transition to armbar. I know he's going to do that. But I can't stop it, you know, because he's just that fucking good. You know, right. if it's going against a regular black belt, I'll stop it 9 times out of 10. But Jake Shields, to me, is one of the best MMA grapplers in the world. And I know what the fuck he's going to do, and I still can't stop it. Bobby Green knew what he was going to do. He knew the transitions, the sequence of transitions. I say sequence of transitions because it's not an uncommon sequence to go armbar to triangle. That's not uncommon, or triangle to armbar, or guillotine to triangle, depending on. It's not an uncommon sequence. It's a very common sequence. But to be that good at it, to hit it that level, that's something special.
Now, I also heard this. I wanted to bounce this off you as well. I think it was on the Weighing In podcast. They said it's especially hard to get a triangle when somebody has a shaved head, because there's less like traction. It's more difficult to hold on to a triangle in that situation. Is that true? Do you agree with that? Or so?
Yes and no, because you look at someone like my head. All right, I look like I have a shaved head right now. I have stubble on my head because it's blonde. All right, okay. That's traction. Okay. You know, so I don't know if Bobby Green's clean shaven or if he has stubble like I do. You know, I mean, yes and no, but it's not like he's holding on to an icicle that he can just slip out of. Like, I mean, the head is bigger than the neck, and if he lacks the legs incorrectly, I mean, the space of pulling his head out. I mean I mean, sure. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I mean, dude, Paddy looked fucking great, man. And again, I just reiterate to hit this transition, a very basic transition at that high of a level. It's not like like there's times where I'll go with a really high level grappler, like Jason Manley, for instance. I'll be rolling with Jason Manley, and all of a sudden, I'm in a move that I've never seen before. I'm in a move that I'm familiar with, but I don't know how he got there. It's like, damn, he caught me. Like, but Bobby knew, hey, armbar to triangle, triangle to armbar. This is day one shit, and to do it at that level is just, like I said, I reiterate again, something special.
What did you think of his striking, by the way, too? Because I thought his striking looked really good. He was tagging Bobby with some leg kicks and doing some nice distance management. I mean, were you impressed by striking?
I mean, I wasn't. I'm not going to say impressed, because to impress me, he'd have to dominate. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
looked good. He looked fine. He looked like he knew what he was doing. But again, we're talking about the top 15 fighters in the world at this weight. Like, they fucking better know how to strike. They better know how to wrestle. They better know how to grapple. So to impress me, I mean, if it was his debut and he goes out there and puts it on Bobby Green, I'd be like, wow, that's impressive. But again, we're fighting for contendership. We're fighting for top 15 fighters in the world. You better know how to strike.
I mean, this is so exciting because now if he goes in the top 15, there's so many matchups, right? He's calling out Renato Moicano, which is an amazing matchup. But imagine if he gets past him and we get into the upper echelons of the lightweight division. I mean, talking about Paddy going up some OG against some OGs like Justin Gaethje, or I mean, just imagine, dude, this is gonna be so exciting. Now, here's my last question about Paddy, which this is one where I'm just trying to get an understanding of why people were saying certain things. Maybe it's because he was hated because of the whole thing with Jared Gordon and Ariel Helwani. But why, like, he's now in the top 15. People are all getting behind him. They're all applauding his performance. They're finally, I think, giving him the credit that he's earned and that he was owed a while ago. But why were so many people back, do you think, just like a year ago, a year and a half ago, just saying Paddy is trash, Paddy is not good, all this stuff, right? Like, I don't know if I had enough of a perspective to even be able to tell one way or the other, but so many people were so adamant, and it seems like everybody is now giving him the credit he's owed and saying he can go to the top 10, he can be a title contender. Why do you think that happened?
Dude, because you're only as good as your last fight. And you know what? MMA fans are the fucking worst. And they all they can judge you off is your last performance. And and when he had that controversial win over whoever, I can't remember who the guy's name was.
Jared Gordon.
Jared Gordon. I keep wanting to say Gordon Ryan, but Jared Gordon, like, people are hating on him because of that. Now he's won a couple. It's like, oh, well, he's fucking winning. Here's the thing. I actually like Paddy. I didn't really care for him at first. I thought he was just a loudmouth, but this guy can fight. And he's not only can he fight, this guy's won me over as a fan now. And I want to see him do good. The problem with where he's at right now, he's breaking in. We'll say he's ranked 14. If he loses his next fight, all the haters are going to be like, he's exposed. See, he's exposed. Now he's out of the top 15, blah, blah, blah. He got in the top 15 by beating an old Bobby Green or King Green, like, blah, blah, blah. That's why I always say MMA fans are the worst, because they base you off your last performance. They don't base you on everything you're putting together. MMA fans, most of them have never been in a fight. Most of them have never been in an MMA gym. They're just watching. And again, they take you off your last fight. He's high and muddy right now because he won. Had he lost that fight, he'd be hated. So, I feel for Paddy. I felt the pain of being ridiculed by the MMA community. But I tell you what, I'm riding with Paddy, ride or die, whether he wins or loses his next fight. I'm a Paddy fan, and I'm really hoping he does well.
Heck yeah, dude. He's incredible for the UFC. I'm a fan too. He's so fun and he's got such good energy. And maybe he had to have a little timeout, I guess you could say, in the world of social media and his fans after going after Jared Gordon. I know we have Western Mass Climber saying one of the reasons why he was hated because he was a dink after the Jared Gordon fight. Yeah, I think people were unhappy. And again, he's gone back and looked at himself. He's talked about it. He's like, look, I shouldn't have been so boisterous and shouldn't have said, oh, I deserve a fight in the night bonus. He's like, I just had a fight. My adrenaline was high. Like, he made a mistake. And I think the Ariel Helwani thing, I think they're gonna make amends one day. I think he's gonna come around and they're gonna make amends. I hope. I think that'd be awesome if they did. But anyways, yeah, awesome. All right, last question to throw out to you, because I actually heard somebody else talk about this, and I'll tell you what they said, but I want to get your thoughts first. Why do you think Bobby Green shot that takedown?
I was really surprised by that, to be honest. Like, Bobby's really not known, but again, I bet Paddy was surprised by it too. You know,
Yeah.
maybe it could have been the game plan. Maybe he thought he had the wrestling advantage, and being the counter striker, you know, maybe, I mean, dude, it's just, you just never know, man. And again, I try to speak from experience as much as I can. A lot of people criticize me. Oh, why did you take a shot? You know, against Charles Rosa, like you have him rocked on the fence. Why did you shoot? Sometimes you're just in the moment and shit happens. It's not a conscious thing. Like when I shot on Charles Rosa, it wasn't like in my head, like, oh, I need to shoot a takedown right now. My body and my mind just did it. And that could have
Yeah.
been Bobby Green too. You know, maybe it was an unconscious thing that he did, like, oh, I'm in a situation and your body just reacts to it. I'm not really sure. Maybe he felt if he got on top, he could grind him out because Bobby can grapple, Bobby can wrestle. Obviously, he took him down.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just an unconscious, you know, or subconscious thing to where he just found himself in a situation and that was his reaction. I'm not really sure, and I'm sure Bobby this week will come out and tell you why.
Well, what you're saying as it being sort of an instinct or something that was trained, that's exactly what Robert Whitaker said. He's like, sometimes you just drill things, you train things, things
Yep.
are in your routines and habits, and he might have seen something that triggered that reaction to shoot for the takedown, and that's how it goes. That made a lot of sense to me, right? He might have seen an opening, went for it, and then Paddy was just that good at jiu-jitsu, which of course is his game. That's where he started, and that's where he's strongest. I think this is one of the first or few times that we've really gotten to see his expert level jiu-jitsu. He's been in a lot of striking battles. So anyways, I don't know. It was so cool. And well done, Paddy Pimblett. And we can't wait to see you fight again. If he does fight Renato Moicano, that'd be incredible. I already showed that comment. If he does fight Renato Moicano, that'd be incredible. They're also talking about them doing a season of The Ultimate Fighter. Now, come on. That's actually going to be a good one. I'm not really the biggest fan of the Ultimate Fighter show, but that would actually be good. I think I was very excited for Conor McGregor versus Chandler. That was a little bit of a letdown, but this one will be really good because they're both super funny.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're both made for TV. They both know how to talk shit. They're both super tough. I think it'll be a great fight for both guys, and I think it'll be great TV for both as well.
Absolutely. By the way, I forgot this comment too. Nanya Business. I think this might be a new subscriber. Welcome to the show. Thank you for commenting. Jones versus Miocic, co-main, Aspinall versus Pereira. I saw this. I saw this as a 4-man tournament. People were like, oh my God, this would be insane. The pay-per-views would be ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. I personally, I don't want to see Pereira just go up and fight Aspinall. I think that's such a tough fight. And I don't know. I want to see, and even Dana White said he wants to see Pereira do some more work in the light heavyweight division. I want to see Pereira fight Ankalaev. I think he beats Ankalaev. I think that'd be incredible. I mean, if he beats Ankalaev, that'd be huge. Then maybe he can think about moving up, but I don't know. Save
It'd
it.
be a huge testament, man. You know, going up to 205. I don't even. I mean, he's big 205er, but he's not a big heavyweight, and I think that he'd have to really take 6 months to put on that mass and get his body moving at that size. Because you know, Pereira moving up, he's doing incredible. He did incredible things at middleweight. He's doing incredible things at light heavyweight. But 260 pounds and 220 pounds are two different people, man. And you look at Jon Jones when he moved up from light heavyweight to heavyweight, look how much size he's put on. And, you know, I'd really like, if Pereira does decide to move to heavyweight, unless they match him up against a smaller heavyweight, I'd like to see him take 3 to 6 months to decide to put on that extra mass and get his body moving with that extra mass as well.
Yeah, and I don't know what the UFC would want if he did move up or if they'd want to throw him right in a title shot. I'd love to see that too. I'd love to see him get in there, take a shot against somebody. Maybe it doesn't have to be for a title shot. It doesn't have to be against Aspinall or whatever, and then get him comfortable and then see what happens. But anyways.
Hey, how about this in fairy tale land? Jones beats Miocic. He retires. Pereira moves up to heavyweight, beats Aspinall. Jon Jones comes out of retirement to fight Pereira.
That'd be dope. That'd be dope. Oh man, that'd be really cool. I don't know. I don't think I have a weird feeling that the UFC would try to talk him out of it. I think they don't. I think they don't want it. I think they want.
With that being said, Pereira's old too. He's not young. He's in his late 30s.
Yeah, I think he's the same age, actually. I think he might be 37 as well. I think they're both 37. No, but I still think that this goes back to this idea that they want to be able to say that Jon Jones is the greatest combat sports athlete of all time, that he would destroy anybody. They get the win over Stipe. Because, like, what is Alex Pereira or Tom Aspinall really add to that equation? Because, you know, Francis has never faced those guys. I'm telling you, man, I think that is at the heart of all of this. In just terms of the overall marketability and strength of the UFC as a brand of like the best of the best are here. That's what I think. That's my theory.
Absolutely.
Or maybe Francis comes back to the UFC and fights Jon Jones. Who knows? I don't know. There's all sorts of crazy stuff that could happen. So, by the way, that was said that is still potentially a possibility one day. I can't remember where I read that. Okay, now we get to the last story. This is the one that's super weird, and I've heard lots of different takes about this. And I feel kind of really bad about this. Even MMA Guru, I was on his video a couple days ago, and I was like, listen, man, don't you feel kind of bad for Mokaev? I think it was Saturday night right after the fight ended. And he even admitted, he's like, yeah, I do feel a little bit bad. So let me give you the whole backs. Do you know what happened here?
Is this about pulling the shorts? Is it about pulling his shorts? I guess I don't know the whole backstory.
Okay,
but
so I'm gonna kind of give everybody a quick recap. So Muhammad Mokaev, who's an awesome flyweight, was up against Manel Kape, who's also an awesome flyweight, and it was basically considered to be a title eliminator fight, right? Like the winner was going to potentially go up and challenge for the belt. At least that's what people were saying. There was real heat, there was real beef. It was originally on the main card, okay? And they've gotten into a brawl on the PI before, all this stuff. Then right before UFC 304 takes place, they take it off of the main. They don't even put it on the I think they put it on the early prelims. I can't remember.
Early prelims.
He put it on the early prelims, which is crazy because this was one of the few fights that had like actual heat, actual drama. Manel Kape is so entertaining. They just completely scrapped it. So we were like, why did they do that? There were a lot of different theories, but one of the main ones, I think there are two of the main ones, is one that the UFC had talked to Muhammad Mokaev about his fighting style and said it was too boring because it was like wrestling heavy. That's one theory, which Dana White dismissed, but I don't know if I still think that guy had to have some merit. The other thing was he was on his last fight in his contract and he hadn't re-signed. And I think they were going back and forth. And I think usually they like to re-sign guys before that last fight, because if they win, kind of like in this situation, or when Francis won, now you have this leverage with the UFC. And I don't think they like that very much because it puts them in a precarious situation. So I think because he didn't re-sign and he was trying to put the UFC in a box, hey, I got the win, now I have leverage. Like, you leverage? Nah, you're out. Like they let him go. I think that's what happened. So coming back, and by the way, grabbing the shorts was another thing that happened as well, which may have also helped the UFC make this decision, being like, hey, he cheated and he did something that he shouldn't have done. I don't know if that had an impact or not. But anyways, the reason why this whole thing is rubbing me the wrong way is because he's 23, he's undefeated. They're cutting an undefeated fighter in the flyweight division who could go up and win the belt next, and he's getting cut, I guess, either because he's boring or because of a contract negotiation. And at the end of the day, if this is a sport meant to showcase the best of the best, man, that's just so disappointing to see somebody basically get ousted because of political reasons, essentially. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Like, does it leave a bad taste in your mouth that somebody just gets a victory and now he's cut?
It just goes to show you that the UFC doesn't give a fuck about you or anybody else, man. And I'm pretty sure I have a theory that's pretty accurate because I did a lot of negotiation. So you look at some guys that will get 1 or 2 fights in the UFC and they get cut. They'll go 2-1 or 1-2 and they get cut. So a lot of people ask, or a lot of people wonder, like, why did I get so many opportunities? Why did I have 5? Especially, well, besides showing up on short notice and making weight every time, is I was very easy for the matchmakers to work with. Meaning that when Sean Shelby called or Mick Maynard called, it didn't matter what the time was, didn't matter what the date was, didn't matter what the weight was. I just say, yeah. I mean, 4 out of my 5 UFC fights were on less than a week notice or 2-week notice. So that's easy for them to work with. When you got someone like this guy that they remember the UFC, and you said it, the UFC wants to negotiate your contracts in between fights. They don't want you to have the bargaining chip. Oh, I'm coming off a win. Like, what, how much more money can I get? They want yes men. And to see that they were probably trying to negotiate his contract before this fight, and he kept saying no, saying no, saying no, that's irritating. Now he wins, and it's like, well, I won. Now I want more money. So they're probably like, you know what? We don't need you. You're fucking boring. Get the fuck out of here. And that's why. And that's obviously not a fact, but I'm pretty sure that's why. Because again, when you talk about the bargaining power, the UFC just wants you to say yes. Because there's 25 other undefeated fighters that you've never heard of, that I've never heard of, that can take that guy's spot, that will do it for $10,000. This guy's 6-0. Is he 6-0 in the UFC?
I thought it was 7-0. Let me double check.
7. Let's say he's 7-0 in the UFC. That's pretty strong bargaining power that he's going to want 6 figures minimum to put on and win boring fights. The UFC flyweight division is always at risk. And when you bring another guy like this in that's just going to take guys down and grind them, and especially if he becomes the champion and he wants a lot of money, it's just bad business for the UFC. So, the UFC probably told him, Dana's probably said before the fight and I've known Dana to do this. He did this with Chuck Liddell back in the day. It's like, hey, look, you have a boring style. Go out there and show me something. And he went out there and made a boring fight. And, he went against what the UFC wanted. He didn't negotiate his contract ahead of time, and he got cut. It's plain and simple. The UFC wants exciting fights. We don't want boring fighters. Why do you think it took so long for Belal to get championship? Because he's boring as fuck. But I'm sure he negotiated, his manager and him, I don't know who his manager is. It's probably Ali.
Ali.
Yeah, of course it's Ali. I would assume it's Ali under dominance. Ali's a great manager. Ali can negotiate these things. I don't know who this guy's manager is, but obviously he put him in a precarious situation. But again, Dana White said it. The PFL is going to get an incredible undefeated fighter coming through the ranks.
So let's talk about this notion that he is boring, by the way, because did you watch the fight, by the way?
I didn't. No, I did not see this fight. No.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know what's up with me, because I actually didn't find the fight boring. Yeah, they were keeping their distance. They were super cautious, but that happens a lot when there's a lot of beef between two fighters. We've seen it over and over because nobody wants to make that first misstep. So they were really, really cautious. Now, I don't see why the blame rests solely on Muhammad Mokaev. He was throwing a lot of strikes, throwing kicks. He was connecting kind of at the tail end of the kicks, almost like connecting with the toe. But I was impressed with his striking. It wasn't like just taking him down and holding him down. But Manel Kape was also gun shy. By the way, Manel Kape broke his toe. So I just don't see why people are getting so much on Muhammad Mokaev's case on the boring side. But anyways, so I know you didn't watch the fight, but I'd love to get your thoughts at some point, because I don't know, I was entertained and I thought there was a lot on the line, so I was excited about it. But anyways, coming back to the flyweight division in general, okay, because we had, let me go back to this original comment. I think it was Anakin that posted this at the beginning. He said Nate Manis, who's another flyweight, wasn't re-signed either. And now Mokaev got cut. So this gets back to a broader question, because if Mokaev, he's 7-0 in the UFC. I just double checked, right? He's 7-0 in the UFC. He's on this undefeated streak. He's an up-and-coming prospect. He's 23, and they cut him. Does this tell you that Dana White may be coming to that conclusion of scrapping the flyweight division, maybe making some of those guys move up to bantamweight?
Yeah, absolutely. And this had been talked about before. And I actually believe there was a fight on the line. I think it was Cejudo versus Demetrius Johnson. I can't remember. I think that was the matchup. There was hey, if Cejudo loses this fight, we're scrapping the division. He came through and essentially saved the division, but at the end of the day, man, I mean, the flyweights are great fighters. I think the flyweights, some of the flyweights are the most skilled fighters in the UFC. Unfortunately, for the flyweight division, there aren't a lot of knockouts, man, and knockouts are what sell. And, when you keep going to decision, I mean, it's like a positive thing. I read somewhere where it's if you take the over in a flyweight fight, you're going to win 65 or 70% of the time. And that's just, I mean, there's times to where it's a flyweight fight's up and it's okay, I got 30 minutes to go do whatever else I need to do before this fight's over. By the time they walk out, by the time they, all the induction, they go 15 minutes, and then there's going to, I got 30 minutes. So I'll walk away from that fight. I hate to say it like that because these guys are so skilled. But for me as a fighter, for me as a fan, I want to see knockouts. I want to see dead bodies on the canvas. And unfortunately, the flyweight division just doesn't do that. Henry Cejudo came out and said, hey, do I need to come back and save this division? That could get interesting.
Henry Cejudo, that'd be crazy. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on, we just talked about how decisions are unsatisfying, right? Earlier in the show, and that is true. But I think when it's the right matchup, Brandon Moreno's really entertaining, or and I get it that knockouts or maybe finishes don't come as often, but I don't know, man. This fight was really exciting. But,
I mean, the UFC had the best flyweight of all time, Demetrius Johnson. I don't care if he's lost over in one. He got knocked out by a knee to the head. He is the greatest flyweight of all time. His technique is impeccable. His standing, I mean, he is just an incredible person. I've never heard a bad thing about the guy. Yeah. And the UFC cut him. The best ever. They traded him for Ben Askren. What the fuck? You're trading the best flyweight of all time for a mediocre welterweight, to come in. I just don't understand the whole... I guess I just don't understand that. Maybe they saw it as maybe after the deal was done, they saw it as a mistake. But again, if there's nobody in the flyweight division more exciting than Demetrious Johnson. Don't you remember when he was fighting that black belt? He picked him up, slammed him right to armbar. Dude, this happens all the time. Him and Henry Cejudo, he knocked out Henry Cejudo the first time they went. They had an incredible. I don't know if you saw and it was a decision. It was a split decision. We're talking about incredible, world-class, Olympic-style wrestling between Demetrious Johnson and Henry Cejudo. You know, it's like, when you had someone like Demetrious Johnson, the champion, that's exciting. When you had someone like Henry Cejudo as the champion, that's exciting. These guys right now, I like Brandon Moreno. I think he's great, but he's just not as engaging as so. I mean, can you name off the top of your head, can you name 5 flyweight fighters right now?
Pantoja, Moreno. Well, now it's easy because we have Manel Mokaev.
Oh,
so
yeah, there's 2
4.
right out the gate. Okay, so name 10. Name 10.
No, I can't.
Either can I. And I train with them, and I still can't name them. So,
unfortunately, Manel Kopp trains with you guys. I forgot. Eric Nixick is his coach.
Yeah, exactly. So I train with these guys, man, and you know, it's like, unfortunately, it's hard for the smaller guys to gain traction. And I feel bad for them because I have guys like Juan Camilo, you know, Ronderas. You know, he was in the UFC for a little while. He just got cut, broke his arm, got cut. Like, what does he battle back to? I mean, I think the 125 is going to be going over to 1, or hopefully the PFL opens it up, because these guys need opportunity besides just going up in weight. Because again, I look at my buddy Juan, who's one of my best friends, dude. The guy's like 5'2". You know what I mean? It's like, how can he go up to 135 and has success at that small of a frame?
Right. Well, hopefully they get a chance to move up, and that isn't you know, too much of a problem. I know Manel Kopp has had issues making weight, so maybe 135 is better for him if this division does close. As far as Muhammad Mokaev goes, I just really hope he gets in there and is able to fight somewhere and is able to show what he can do, because he's obviously so talented at 23. It's just to me, it's just that movie, The Bronx Tale, wasted talent. You know, you don't want to see that. I think that everybody sort of has an aversion to that. You see somebody so tremendously gifted, you want to see what they can do. So I hope there's a way that they can work something out, or, you know, maybe at some point he'll be given another shot. One other theory that's posited about why the UFC doesn't want him is because he does cause those problems, right? Eric Nixick himself said that Muhammad Mokaev sucker punched Manel Kopp, right? So maybe that was a problem, that was an issue, but whatever it may be, hopefully he grows up, he can work it out with them, and things resolve.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I mean, another thing leading up to the fight, and this is what I'm going to end here, it's like, you look at all these guys at the weigh-ins, any guys holding them back, they can't wait to get their hands on each other. And then they have the opportunity to get their hands on each other, and people consider it a lackluster fight. That's why I don't understand the big guys. Everyone's trying to throw punches and kicks at the weigh-ins, and, you know, at the media press, and these guys want to get all physical, you know, because they know, I think, in the back of their head, like, hey, somebody's going to grab us and separate us. Because when they have that opportunity to shine, there was so much hype and so much bad blood behind the fight, and then the fight was just lackluster. Like, this is your chance to go put damage on that guy that you wanted to at the weigh-ins, at the press conference, and now you blow your chance. And I think the UFC looks at that as silly as well.
I agree. Okay, last thing before we wrap up the show, Anakin has thrown out Beneil versus Paddy at some point. Hey, maybe not next, though, because we do want to see Paddy versus Renato Moicano, but maybe after that, maybe Paddy versus Beneil. Maybe, I mean, I don't know, man. Paddy makes it fun. Paddy versus Justin Gaethje. Paddy versus Dustin, if that could be a potential. I mean, all these fights would be so much fun. So anyways, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. Congratulations to Paddy and all the winners. Congratulations to Belal, man. Like I said, I'm going to be making a little bit of an apology video later this week, because I think some of the ways that I criticized him were wrong. I'll admit it. I got a lot of crap on our Instagram reel. It's our highest performing reel of all time. I think we've gotten like 7,000 or 8,000 views on it. It's the one where I'm like, Leon Edwards is 100% going to win. There's no chance he's going to lose. Yeah, it's me talking about that. So people are clowning me, but hey, it is what it is. I was totally wrong. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining today. If you did like this video, make sure to click that like button. If you want to see more from the 10-7, make sure to click subscribe. And without further ado, that is it. And we will see you guys on Friday. Take it easy.
See you guys.